Good evening, and I would like to call to order the August 21st meeting of Los Gatos Town Council. Mrs. Rasmussen, would you please call the roll?
Council agency members, Steve Glickman.
Here.
Barbara Spector.
Here.
Joe Brzezinski.
Here.
Mike Wasserman.
Here.
Mayor Chair Diane McNutt.
Here. You are now going to see Mrs. Rasmussen pick up her nameplate for the last time and move off the dais. She's going to be retiring at the end of September, and this is her last meeting staffing the council meeting. She's going to come back in October so we can have a proper send-off and commendation, but I just wanted to acknowledge her now, kind of the changing of the guard. So let's have some applause now. And get used to it. There's going to be more in October. Okay. As you know, at each council meeting, we invite one of the future leaders of the community to come and help us do the Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight we have with us Kelsey Crandall, who is a sixth grader. I think it's fifth grader. Is that correct? Fifth or sixth? Entering sixth at Blossom Hill Elementary School. She is very active in the student council, and she is the winner of the DARE fifth grade essay contest. So Kelsey, you want to come up and help us do the pledge? And would everyone else please stand, please?
Put your right hand over your heart. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
An applause. Wait. An applause for Kelsey. And Next on the agenda is the closed session report. Mr. Korb.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. Council did meet in closed session tonight on 3 items. First was a conference with its labor negotiator regarding ongoing negotiations with the Town Employees Association. The second was a conference with me concerning both existing litigation, Doer et al. Versus Town of Los Gatos, and anticipated litigation concerning a threat of closure of Old Drive. In all 3 cases, direction was given, no final actions were taken, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. I'm now going to move to the ceremonial podium. We have several presentations tonight, so if you'll bear with me for just 1 second. So if you have been in downtown Los Gatos over the last few weeks, you have noticed the construction. And for all of us, when we're doing any remodeling projects at home, we cannot stand the process. We just want it done, but we're also happy when it's finished. The same thing is true with street projects. Last year, we did North Santa Cruz, and Mr. Wasserman at that time was mayor, was down there every minute of the day trying to help that project move along. This year, we did Main Street. And staff came up with the great idea of doing the paving overnight, but there was still a lot of disruption both during the daytime and the evening. So I think it was an extraordinary job, and I would like to have the folks who helped to make that possible and be so successful come up so they can receive special acknowledgement. So do we have someone here from Albanese Construction? Would you like to please come forward? We also have several sidewalk ambassadors and VIPs. As a group, they spent 277 hours on the street helping people stay out of the way and get to where they want to go and answer questions and probably put up with some crankiness. So Ursula Spatz, Tom Robb, Cecilia Bass, Colleen Murphy, Sandra Vars, and Eleanor Schock, please come up. And then from staff, we have John Curtis, Parks and Public Works, Kevin Rohani, who could not be here this evening, who was out there, I know, all night because it was at the end of my street, Mary Gillespie Greenberg, and George Garcia. So, council, would you please stand and help me say thank you to these great folks? Great job. Very well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a commendation this evening for Mark Jensen, who has been on the Transportation and Parking Commission and is going off. Mark, do you want to come on up? And let me read you the commendation. It says, whereas Mark Jensen has served the town of Los Gatos as a member of the town's Transportation and Parking Commission from approximately January 1st, 2003 to June 14th, 2006. And whereas during this period he has unselfishly contributed his time, energies, and capabilities to both the Transportation and Parking Commission and the community. And whereas the town council feels that such outstanding public service deserves special recognition, now, therefore, the Town Council of the Town of Los Gatos does hereby render with special appreciation, commendation, and thanks to Mark Jensen for approximately 3.5 years of service, of dedicated public service to the Town of Los Gatos and its citizens as a member of the town's Transportation and Parking Commission. Applause again.
So I just want to say one thing. I was running down Winchester Boulevard a couple of months ago and saw a tree branch down on the side of the road and thinking, oh, I got to call John Curtis to see if he can fix it up. And then the next time I'm out running, it's picked up and cleaned up and trimmed very nicely. And so I just want to say the staff is on it. I really appreciate all the professional efforts of our engineering and roads, Parks and Roads staff. Thank you.
Our next commendation is going to be presented by Mr. Wasserman. Each council member during the year has an opportunity to select a business or a community organization or an individual to give special recognition to. And tonight is Mike's turn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Tonight it's my honor and privilege to call up a gentleman named Mike Loya. Mike, if you'll come on up here, please. This is one very, very humble, modest man. So to get him up here right now took a lot of doing. But he's done a lot of wonderful things in our community in the last 2 years. I've got a commendation here for you, Mike, that's going to list just a few of the things that you've accomplished. And again, when I read these things, please remember that this has been done in the last 2 years. Whereas, since July 2004, Mike Loya's leadership and dedication as a recreation coordinator for the venue and director for A Place for Teens have dramatically increased attendance. Now listen to this. This was 2 years ago. From 50 teens a day to 300 to 400 teens a day. Whereas in 2005, Mike Loya had an essential role in launching the middle school zone program at Fisher and Redwood Middle Schools. And whereas Mike Loya's energy and creativity made the venue truly a place for teens by extending hours, hosting concerts, organizing countless activities, and believe me, they are countless, and making the venue a state-of-the-art facility with multimedia capabilities, arcade and billiard games, computer lab, and free Wi-Fi services. And whereas Mike Loya recently secured a grant from the Valley Foundation in the amount of $50,000, and I know for a fact he wrote the grant application. How long was it?
Long.
A couple of hundred pages. To be used for a mobile recording studio at A Place for Teens. And whereas Mike Loya's advocacy for teen issues and community collaboration with the Los Gatos Montessorino Police Department, the Town of Los Gatos, the Youth Commission, CASA, Alive and Loving Life, Los Gatos and Saratoga school districts, continues to foster civic engagement and cooperative problem solving. And whereas Mike Loya was recently promoted to Recreation Supervisor of Teen Programs for the Los Gatos Saratoga Community Education and Recreation. And whereas Mike Loya's efforts to engage Los Gatos' teens in a safe and positive environment have established relationships based on respect and trust, which make him a community treasure. And before I read this last sentence here, I also had one more thing I wanted to point in. Mike's done so many things, you just can't fit it on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Okay, so those were a few. But another one I know about is a while back, it was his birthday, and the kids on their own passed a hat around, and they collected about $1,000. They brought that money in here, and they go, "Happy birthday, Mike." Mike takes that birthday money, goes on down, buys an Xbox and games, and says, "Here you go, kids." That's the kind of man that Mike Loya is. Now, therefore, the Town Council of the Town of Los Gatos does hereby render with special appreciation, commendation, and thanks to you, Mike Loya, for your outstanding contributions to the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you could please say a word or two, and then Mr. Glickman had one more comment he wanted to add in.
I would love to. First of all, thank you to council, staff, everybody. This has actually been a great 2 years, and it's not just one person. It's actually been all about collaboration. An incredible police chief right there with the Youth Commission, CASA, a really outstanding director of the Los Gatos Saratoga Recreation Department, Steve Rowolf. He's really inspired a lot of us to do what we've been doing. Great teens, a place for teens, CASA, a great board, but even better, a great council, and just an excellent town. And I'd like to always say that we've heard the old saying that it takes a village to raise a child, but I'd like to say it takes a town to raise a teen. And this town has really been doing a great job, and we're seeing that at the venue. So thank you.
If you could just please hold there for a minute, Mr. Glickman has some words to add.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure every Friday and Saturday night to watch Mike interact with the teens as we run the Safe Rides program. And he doesn't just run the place. We come in and he's sitting with them, playing games, being the adult and the kid. And everything that's happened at that location that's happened so wonderfully has happened thanks to Mike. We are extremely grateful. Well done, Mike.
And we have one more special presentation this evening. You probably have already seen in the media the stories about the one-year anniversary that's coming up of Hurricane Katrina. And what we're going to do tonight is talk a little bit about the Los Gatos Town-to-Town Katrina Consortium, where we adopted a community, Pascagoula, Mississippi, and have been helping that community over the last year. I'd like to begin the presentation by reading a proclamation. We are proclaiming Sunday, August 27th as Pascagoula Day in Los Gatos, and let me tell you why. Whereas Pascagoula, a city of 26,000 residents located on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, suffered great devastation and personal hardships as a result of Hurricane Katrina on August 29, 2005. And whereas Hurricane Katrina damaged 90% of the homes in Pascagoula, many severely, and thousands of residents are still living in temporary quarters or emergency trailers. And whereas city facilities in Pascagoula were heavily damaged and required the closure of all parks, City Hall, recreation facilities, the library, and other civic facilities that are vital to the quality of life of residents. And whereas almost all Pascagoula businesses were impacted and most closed for several months, depriving residents of employment and income and significantly reducing revenues to the city's general fund. And whereas Pascagoula residents, businesses, and community organizations face many years of recovery and rebuilding ahead, and whereas in the spirit of extending compassion to those affected by the hurricane, the Los Gatos Town-to-Town Katrina Consortium was formed. And whereas the Los Gatos Town-to-Town Katrina Consortium has adopted Pascagoula, committing to provide assistance with the long process of rebuilding the community and the lives of its residents. And whereas the town of Los Gatos wishes to confirm its continuing commitment to the community of Pascagoula throughout its rebuilding and recovery and commemorate the one-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Diane McNutt, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the town of Los Gatos, do deem it appropriate and do hereby proclaim August 27th, 2006, as Pascagoula Day in the town of Los Gatos. And I would like to show you a message from Pascagoula. What you see there are city council members and a lot of city staff. You've got emergency, thank you very much, who are saying, thank you, Los Gatos, for everything that you have done so far. This was at the reopening of a nature center right on the Gulf, one of the facilities that has finally been able to reopen. We have the lights back up. We have with us this evening several folks from the consortium, and one of them, Dave Henderson, is going to come and give us just a brief update on what the consortium has done over the last year.
Thank you. This is an exciting day to be a part of Los Gatos when you look at pictures like this and some of the things that we've experienced and been able to share with a community that's approximately 2,300 miles from where we stand today. But over the past year, as Diane mentioned, there's been a consortium that was created shortly after Katrina. We called it the Los Gatos Katrina Consortium. And the goal was really to recognize after Katrina had come through and damaged the number of states and communities that it did, that there was something that we needed to do, and was there a way that we could respond? And to do it in a personal way. Many of us gave money initially, and then we thought, could we follow up with something where they actually saw our faces and became familiar with us? So in going on a little research journey, we identified the town of Pascagoula, which, as you heard, consisted of 26,000 residents. Another way of looking at their distance, they're about 130 miles east of New Orleans. If you want to get there very quickly, fly from here to Houston, which is a 3-hour flight, then take a shuttle to Gulfport, Mississippi, which is 45 minutes, and then drive another 45 minutes, and that will put you in Pascagoula. So if you have time this weekend, that might be a nice place for you to go. That being said, the challenge with Pascagoula in particular was a community, again, of 25,000 or 26,000 people. They experienced a surge of water unlike anything they'd ever seen before. It had actually never occurred that if your home was on the beach, you had a surge of upwards of 26 feet, they estimate 26 feet to 30 feet of water that hit the first homes, and then that continued inland approximately 2 miles, and it ended at about 14 inches of water to the home. So approximately 90% of the homes were either totally destroyed or had significant water damage. So our goal was, after we identified them, was to say, how do we engage a community? And we felt the only way to do that would be to really identify local entities with local entities. So an example of that would be faith-based organizations in Los Gatos identifying with their counterparts in Pascagoula, a Rotary Club or civic organization identifying with a local organization, a recreational entity such as the Little League identifying with the Little League there. And I'm so pleased to say, from the infancy stages of those meetings, how exciting and rewarding these meetings have been. I mean, for some of you who have been a part of this, it's hard to come out of a Thursday morning or a Monday morning, depending on when we meet, meeting without feeling a sense of enthusiasm around what we're doing. And just a small snapshot, I think the first team that went down was Tom Carson led a team from the Los Gatos Methodist Church. There were approximately 30 people who went there, both from the church as well as from the community. Worked on homes, trying to make a difference for the people, and as Wide World of Sports used to say, it was an up-close and personal look at what's going on, and incredibly rewarding. I was part of a team from Calvary Church in Los Gatos also. There were about 30 of us that went down, and Tom was a great resource to me to understand, when you take a team of 30 in, what does it look like, what does it feel like, what does it sound like, and can you make a difference? St. Mary's Church, another one, they were working out of a crock pot serving 300 children in a school, and because they lost their stove, and money was raised to help them. Sheher Hadash was a part of a, I believe it was a prayer team on a Sunday night, where they basically, it was a community prayer time. $2,500 was raised, and that's just from the faith-based organizational side. From the community side, Frank Burgandy is sitting here. Frank also goes to Calvary, and I love to grab people who look like they have potential. So Frank was on the Los Gatos Little League board, and I said, Frank, is there a way we can connect the Little League with Little Leagues? And he put out an email to the parents of the Los Gatos Little League, and over a 3-day time period, they raised 1,400 pounds of first-class Little League gear. And Frank, just very quickly, they estimated that value alone to be how much? Yeah, $200,000, which was sent. The ironic part of this was, I shouldn't say ironic, but the encouraging part was Frank flew down for opening day. My little chuckle for this moment was, it was a big day for Pascagoula. Various government officials are recognized there. Nice applause. Frank gets recognized for coming from Los Gatos, and they give him a standing ovation. So I thought that was incredibly special. And then you move on to look at the Rotary Club of Los Gatos. They contributed $10,000. So there's been just some wonderful, wonderful things happening. And then the one thing which I'd like to focus on just for a moment is just how our government leadership has played a role, because we can talk the practical side of what we do in terms of the money side, or to help put a home back in order, but then there's also the emotional toll that takes place. And our own mayor was in Pascagoula in December of 2005 offering support to their government leaders. And then also, there was another celebration also that we were a part of through their own city manager. And we're going to be watching this in just a moment. But the brief setup is, on Thursday night before our team was coming back, we wanted to get together with some of the community leaders and really celebrate what we've been able to do and offer encouragement to them. So what you're going to be hearing in just a moment is Kay Kell, who is their city manager, interestingly enough, talking about our city manager. And the sound is a little tough at the beginning, but what you hear Kay saying is when something like this happens, people look to you for answers, and just because you're in government doesn't mean you have the answer. So if we could play that, that'd be great. And then there'll be just a couple pictures I'll conclude with.
It's scary. People, one of the reasons I became a city manager is to get things done and to actually make things happen. And when something like this happens, you realize you can't. That everybody still looks to you for an answer. And it was the most frightening experience I've ever had, that people thought I knew what to do. And I guess that's a good feeling, but they just needed somebody to come in and fix things. And it wasn't me. I didn't know how to do that. So that's been very, very difficult. And in fact, as Dave was talking about, different groups connecting, your city manager has been incredible. She called me one day after I had gotten especially bad news, and I don't even remember what it was about because the issue was different every day. And we talked, and I was so down, and we talked and talked and talked, and finally I said, I hate you got me on a day like this. And she said, I'm glad I got you on a day like this because you needed to talk. And she's been extremely helpful to me. Your mayor has been very helpful.
Deborah, thank you. That was pretty special. And then just continuing very quickly with what you see here, those are a couple of homes that have been destroyed. This is a slab that only has a flagpole left. The streets with FEMA trailers still in the background with debris. This is a typical home that we would go and work on. These are some of the folks that were part of our team. This was Jose hanging sheetrock. This is one of the younger members of the community taping. And for those who are wondering, that's where we slept. So what can you do to help as we move this forward? Volunteer to join a work group. We'll be sending probably another couple teams down in the October time period. Make contact with your counterpart. If you are an accountant, there's got to be an accountant down there that you could call. It doesn't take much, and you don't need a lot of approvals on this. The infrastructure is very small, but it's nothing more than a phone call to start the program. And if you're interested in donating funds, that's always something that can be used in the community. And most importantly, if you really want to get in contact with us, there's our website address. So thank you very much, and thank you for the work that's been done in this community to help those folks in Pascagoula.
Thank you. We have several people in the audience this evening who have worked on the Katrina Consortium. I was wondering if you could all stand, and Mr. Wasserman, that would be you also, and Mrs. Fagoni, so that we can properly, Tom, stand up. Matt, you might as well stand up because we're going to make you work this weekend. And I have to stand up too. Okay, applause for everybody. There will be informational tables about the consortium at Farmers Market this Sunday and also at Music in the Park. I also want to acknowledge Jules Robbins of Web Search and Design, who created the website and helps us to keep it fresh. The experience of Pascagoula and the comments of the city manager and the mayor and the other folks that we've talked to there really helped to emphasize to us how important it is for a community to be prepared for the unexpected and not to rely on the city to come in. As she said, what do you do when people are looking to you for answers? The city had lost most of its facilities, its vehicles. The city employees themselves had suffered great losses. The mayor's day job is an insurance agent, which is not a good thing to be a couple days after a hurricane. The city manager had no shoes to wear. She had to borrow shoes from, not just that day, altogether. She had to borrow shoes from the Chamber of Commerce so that she would have some shoes to wear. And she is just now moving back into her home. So she has been living in temporary quarters also. So that leads into the Los Gatos Prepared campaign in October that the chief is helping us put together, and we're going to be prepared ourselves. Mr. Wasserman?
Madam Mayor, I don't think the TV would have been able to pick up the website. Could you please give the website address for the Pascagoula effort?
Certainly. It's losgatuskatrina.org. Thank you. Okay. And that concludes all of our ceremonial portion of the meeting. We had a lot of presentations tonight because of a lot of good things going on. We'll now move to consent items. Mr. Korb, you had a comment to make about item number 3? I'm sorry, item number 6?
Just to remind the council that we're not asking for any action tonight on item number 6. There's no resolution before the council.
Okay. I do have a card requesting that consent items 6 and 12 be pulled. Are there any items that council would like to have pulled? Anyone else in the audience want to pull any additional items? I'm looking for a motion then.
Move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We will talk about the pulled consent items in other business after the public hearing. I did want to make note of item number 3 that we just approved, and this was for a contract for technology services so that finally Los Gatos can have online permitting. Can staff tell us when that might come online?
We're going to endeavor to have that operational by the end of the year.
Okay. Great. Do we have a problem? No. Okay. Verbal communication. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak on any subject. I have one card from Citizen Ray, of course. Anyone else? You're on.
Of course. Thank you for the of course. I know you're anxious to hear what I have to say, Ms. McNutt. Yes, I want to my first comment in the public interest is that at the last meeting, the city engineer, I don't see him here tonight, said that the missing sidewalks on Blossom Hill Road where the school kids walk out in the oncoming traffic would be replaced by next spring. Well, I guess you know that spring runs till June 21st. So that's not much of a change from the original time schedule. And I want to tell you to wait 9 months to do a small little engineering job like restriping the streets and putting the sidewalks in is not to be condoned by anybody who has any kind of a public conscience, any kind of a concern for children's safety. So I'm going to ask you again to update that, okay? We cannot wait 9 months. It's got to happen the sooner the better before a young child gets run over or tragically hurt. So I'm again going to leave it with you, and I'm waiting to hear some response from anybody on the council. Secondly, 13 acres in Vasona Park that I brought up last time. The solution by Mr. Korb, the town attorney, that he so stated that when a deal is made, then it'll be put through the land use process. Well, excuse me, that is not good enough for we, the people of this community, okay? We want to be brought in on the deliberations before the meeting of the minds with the county. Before, not afterwards, not after the deal is made. Excuse me, that's keeping the people out of the loop. And that's not what America is all about, and should not be what Los Gatos is all about, okay? And I want to tell you to use the Brown Act as a device to keep the people in the dark as to what's going on when you have two public entities, the county and the city of Los Gatos, and you use the Brown Act to duck information to the public of both the county and the city is an abomination. And it's, in my opinion, fraud. Nothing but fraud. And you should cease and desist immediately. So I want to see this get open for discussion because there's an opportunity for soccer fields for the children in that 13 acres. And we have to discuss it. And I mean we the people, as well as you folks.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak this evening under verbal communication? Seeing none, we will move on in the agenda to public hearings. Item number 13 is the consideration of an appeal by a planning commission decision regarding modification or revocation of a conditional use permit for the operation of a bar on property at 408 North Santa Cruz. There's been a request to continue this for a future meeting, and I'm assuming our next meeting is on September 5th. Does the agenda allow for that, staff?
Yes, it does, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Council, I'm assuming we're all in agreement then that it would be continued at their request until September 5th? Okay. Mr. Korb, do we need to do anything else on that then?
No, council can go ahead and continue the hearing to September 5th at this point in time. As I said, as you said, the continuance was requested by the appellant.
I do have some speaker cards here, but since the item has been continued, I'm assuming that that means that you would be able to come back, and I do apologize for the inconvenience, but these things come up at the last minute.
Actually, I'm Kent Washburn. I'm speaking for the bar owner, and I think the only people here to speak are here to speak on our behalf, and so I think they'll be happy to return on the other date. I didn't want to see members of the public who might want to comment against us inconvenienced. Thanks.
Okay, so
Excuse me, I'm here to speak in support of the planning commission.
did you want to speak tonight, Mr. Davis, or do you want to speak in 2 weeks?
Some comments because I planned, because it's agendized, and I planned to comment. So I would like to make some comments, okay?
I will let you make comments, although I think it might be more appropriate if you waited till September 5th when everyone is aware of what the issue is and has heard the reports, because no one's going to know what you're talking about tonight.
I know what's best for what I want to do.
Then you may speak tonight.
Yes, I spoke to the issue before the Planning Commission, and I did support the conditional approval as approved by the Planning Commission, okay? But what I see in the meantime, I've had a bit of a reconsideration, because I remembered, I thought a little deeper about it, if I may say so. You know, I've only been here in Los Gatos for a small amount of time, relatively, and I've never lived in a community that has a drinking policy, a land use policy for the drinking establishments. But Los Gatos has it. And from what I hear, there's a reason. Some time ago, from what I understand, if you wanted to do a wild and crazy party, you came to Los Gatos. Period. So I assume this council policy was a reflection of the problems that were created at the time, all right? Also, I want to tell you I had a personal experience many years ago that I had forgotten about, which I think is very pertinent to this issue. My hunting buddy and myself were driving north up to Mount Veeder in Napa County to do some deer hunting. Early in the morning, okay? We're driving down the road, legally, speed limit. I'm driving, all of a sudden I got headlights right smack in front of me. Car in the oncoming lane had crossed the middle line and was coming right at me. No time to think, I can assure you. All you do is react. And I was always blessed with quick. So I turned that wheel quick. Off into the orchard. And we, both of us, lived, as well as the guy, the driver of the car. Well, we, of course, looked for the car, and it pulled over on the side of the road. And we didn't know what we had to deal with, so we unlimbered our deer rifles and approached that car. with caution, okay? Looked around, what do we have? Looked in the windows, and here's a character curled up on the seat in a fetal position with his hands over his head, okay? So we knocked on the door, said, talk to us. He refused to do that. Doors were locked, windows were rolled up. So what are we going to do? So we said, well, do we let air out of the tires, slow him down a little bit so maybe he sobers up? No. And then we said, how could this have happened? We looked at our watches, 2:30.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
This guy, chances are, came out of a bar
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
and
Thank
almost
you.
took
Your
our
time
lives.
is up. Your time is up.
So I am concerned from that standpoint.
Please, thank you.
The public safety.
Okay, so this public hearing now is continued until our next meeting, which is on September 5th.
Madam Mayor, may I suggest, though, for the record, that there be a motion to continue to September 5th?
Certainly.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Anything else? Okay. On other business, we will now talk about the consent item that was pulled. Mr. Davis, that you pulled that?
Number 6. Yes, American Apparel. Well, as you know, we've,
Just one more. You pulled 6 and 12, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm speaking to number 6.
Okay.
I can't speak to both at the same time.
You have 3 minutes for your pulled consent items total.
3 minutes for both?
Yes,
Oh, you're wonderful.
yes,
Thank you so much.
yes. And do you know that we're not making any action on item 6 this evening?
I know that.
Okay.
And I'm wondering why.
Okay, now your time can begin. Okay, go.
You know, this action was taken by the council, a 4-to-1 vote, backing up the planning commission, and there's a threat of a lawsuit, so you held off the due process, and for 6 months, and you kept the community totally in the dark as to what's going on. You people all know what's going on, but we don't. And as the city attorney says, it's very unusual. I'll say it's unusual. I've never heard of such a thing. So I think you ought to let us know the basic rudiments of what is happening. After all, it is a democracy, isn't it? I mean, you do understand that in a democracy, the people have to be informed so they can decide what's right and what's wrong. But you're contravening that totally. And it was supposed to be up tonight for adoption, okay? This adoption of the motion by the council. And again, you've ducked the issue. And before we had Mr. Wasserman, who failed even to vote. He abstained. So what's going on? Are you afraid to deal with it? Can't you give us just the basic information so we know what to think? Aren't we do that? Come on, Ms. Spector, graduate of Santa Clara Law School, enhancement from Harvard University. Speak for the people, Ms. Spector. I continue to wait for you to lead for the people. Okay. You can tell that I'm concerned. And I think you need to think about it, okay? The council minutes. The minutes have been changed, okay? You now are back to the old format of the minutes where you say nothing. You just give a generalized statement, which is a whitewash. You don't give the gist of anything. I can't believe it. So it's, my opinion is nothing but deceit and dishonesty
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
on your part.
Your
It's not
time is
her
up.
fault, it's your fault,
Your time is up.
because you set the policy.
Mr. Korb, did you want to say anything, or you don't have to if you don't want to?
Well, again, we have, as the speaker correctly points out, been addressing a threat of litigation concerning the American Apparel decision. Council has discussed the matter in closed session. We will be discussing the matter again in closed session very soon, and I'm really not at liberty to say anything more about it. So I have to conclude my statements with that.
Thank you. Council, could I have a motion for approval of items number 6 and 12?
So moved.
6 and 12.
6 and 12.
No action is required on 6, so only
Oh,
item 13.
thank you. Just number 12 then.
12, excuse me.
That's what I moved.
And a second?
Second.
And any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Council matters? Manager matters? Wow, we are adjourned.